Well, you first heard of us via Tam Laird of the Scottish Libertarians.
Yeah.
So we've got the Free Speech Union these days. We've got Reform UK, Reclaim, Together.
Yeah.
Got your Comedy Unleashed, and a plethora of pro-freedom parties and organisations. What are your thoughts on how we are set to fight the battle for liberty in this country?
Oh, I'm sorry to be so gloomy, but I mean, there's a real positive alliance, and they're really fighting back. And I think the Free Speech Union, in particular, does an amazing job. It helped a friend out the other day, and he was in big problems. But I just think, what the majority... I think the majority of people, certainly in England and probably across the UK, generally want less state, more individual responsibility. They don't mind some migration, but nothing on quite the levels that we're at. And, they're happy to pay a certain amount of that. They expect a reasonable service in return, and they don't want to have their money spent on stupid pet projects or lining or on corruption. And I just think that's the majority view. A bit less state, lower taxes and more individual responsibility. And, the Tories are supposed to stand for that, and they've had 12 years and they've delivered the opposite. And, if the Tories can't deliver it, what hope do we have? And we have the two-party system. And so, I guess there's an outside chance that the Tories could implode, but they won't. They'll just get a new leader, and they'll probably have 4 or 8 years of Labour, and then we'll get 4 or 8 years of Tory, and they'll all be as bad as each other. In fact, in a funny kind of way, I almost think we'll be better off with Labour, because the bizarre thing with the Tories, they were so scared of the opposition, they just pandered to them and did everything the opposition would have done, and maybe the same will happen with Labour. So, and with people constantly holding them to account, maybe they will lower taxes, but I doubt it. But I just don't think political change is possible. So if that's what you're referring to, there will be lots of people talking about it and dreaming about it, but the citizen is not armed and the government is, so there's a power imbalance there. The taxes, you don't even have the power to withhold taxes, so you don't have that power. And voting changes nothing. Representative democracy doesn't work. You're choosing between Labour and Tory. I mean, what's the difference? And you get Social Democrat whichever way you vote, and the blob stays the same. And so, the only vote that meant anything was Brexit. That was handled by a Conservative Party that campaigned for Remain, didn't understand it, didn't believe in it, couldn't see the opportunity that it was, or if they did see it as an opportunity, they chose to turn a blind eye to it. And they made a mess of it, and they haven't owned it. And so, yeah, I'm afraid I'm not very positive. Despite all these noble people, everyone trying to do their little bit, and I'll carry on trying to do my little bit and making the argument and so on. But I think we're all better off moving to Ancapistan. It was Tam who told me that term, Ancapistan, and it made me laugh a lot. I've done a song about it that's coming out in the next few days.
Oh, splendid.
Do you think, there's a few things there. There's lots, too many things, but things like Comedy Unleashed, I would say like 2 or 3 years ago, you had what I would describe as sort of the Mock the Week BBC worldview, and not a lot else in comedy. Whereas, names like yourself and I don't know, Jeff Norcott, Simon Evans.
Yeah. But
there wasn't a kind of a wider grouping, which you've obviously been at the forefront of pushing. It's a small step in the right direction, perhaps, but at least it's a step.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, but and Peter Thiel wrote a very good essay in 2008 called "The Education of a Libertarian," and he argued that you can't achieve political change through politics. You have to do it through new frontiers, and he argued that you achieve it through new technologies, but also new frontiers such as space or cyberspace or seasteading or wherever it is. So you go and colonise places that haven't previously been colonised. And I guess, comedy and the spoken word and the argument is in itself a new frontier. So yeah, I love it. I support it. I'm grateful for the platform that it's given me, and I think I've more than done my bit in return and made people laugh and so on. But I still don't think politics changes.
So do you think it's if it's not about specific political parties, Conservative or Labour,
It's the system.
is it? Do you think we can achieve gradual? I'm going to use the word progress, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Through being more involved, perhaps in what you used to call civil society. So that could be, the arts, cultural matters, such as, your comedy stuff and obviously your music, but also getting involved in more local activities, because I think there's perhaps a tendency amongst, particularly those that absolutely declare themselves to be libertarians, to say, I'm an individual, please don't tax me sort of thing, but, not wanting to get too involved in local activities, whereas other people perhaps get more involved and then have more of an impact. Do you think there's any value in getting more involved in local organisations that are not necessarily blatantly political?
I think there's a lot of value in doing all those things, if only because you meet like-minded people, and you're happier when you're with like-minded people. And the more people do, the more stuff is likely to change. And just because I think things aren't going to change doesn't mean they won't. And just because I'm being negative, even though I'm not very positive about how much can change, I'll still go on doing the things that I do, and everyone else should do the same. And you can rest your bottom dollar that if you do something, things are more likely to change than if you do nothing.